I'm sure you're all familiar with this style of outlet tester that has some neon bulbs letting you know if your outlet is wired correctly. These testers literally consist of just a resistor and a neon bulb connected between the hot, ground, and neutral terminals of an outlet. You literally have a resistor and a neon bulb connected between your hot, neutral, and ground terminals. So if your outlet is wired correctly, the bulb between hot and ground and the bulb between hot and neutral will be on for correct wiring. If your hot and neutral are reversed, then this bulb will be on between hot and ground and this bulb between hot and neutral. If your ground is missing, then only this bulb will be on between hot and neutral. That is how these testers let you know that the outlet is wired correctly by which bulb is on. There's no intelligence inside this tester. It's just a couple of resistors and bulbs. So where a tester like this sells for $8 to $10, these with the display now sell between $10 and $20. This Cobalt is only $10, where the Klein is $20, and this is somewhere in between at around $114. I do have links in the description of this video where you can find these since they are relatively new. There's some really neat features you can do by having this digital readout, and you can actually use this to find wiring problems in your house very simply instead of buying a $300 circuit analyzer that is intended for doing that. So like your standard outlet testers, these testers just have LEDs that will let you know if you're wired incorrectly or not. They have different colors usually. On this guy, the two that light up when you're wired properly are yellow or white. On this one, if you're wired properly, it is two green LEDs. There's a red LED if one of them is incorrectly, so let's switch it to correct. So now I have two yellows here and I got two greens. There is the normal little cheat sheet that's on these guys that tell you which lights tell you when you have open ground, open neutral, reversals, and things like that. Where the Klein tester really differs from these other two is instead of having 3 lights, you just have 2 lights here, one indicating this is correctly wired and the red indicating it's not correctly wired. If you want to find out what the error is, it actually tells you on the LCD display. So now that I have correct wiring, it just says correct. If I go with open neutral, take the neutral wire off, I get a red LED indicating there's a wiring error, and the display actually says open neutral. If I do a hot and neutral reverse, the display says hot, neutral, reverse. I'm not super pleased with the brightness of the lights on this Cobalt. You can see the red is really hard to see through the smoke glass, but you do have a red versus green. So when you do have a wiring error, you're looking for 2 green lights to tell you that everything's fine. If you don't have 2 green, if you only have 1 light on or a red light on, you know that there's a wiring issue. The lights in the Kaiweets are a little bit brighter, but I don't like the fact that they're all 3 the same color. You'll notice that if I switch things around a little bit, I can, all 3 lights on at the same time, they're all red, but I can get to a situation where I still have 2 lights on and the 2 lights are red. So just looking for 2 lights that are red doesn't tell you that your outlet is wired properly. Now you have to know which position to look at, and that position can change depending on the orientation of your outlet. So both of these testers are only going to give you an indication of what's going on with the outlet while it's plugged in. If you want to see the voltage reading, you have to have that outlet in an angle where you can actually see the display while it's plugged in. The Klein, on the other hand, remembers the voltage reading after you unplug it. So once I unplug this unit from the outlet, the voltage that it was reading stays on and the correct wiring indication stays on for 10 seconds. So you basically have 10 seconds to read what happened before you move on to the next outlet. It also has a function that says if you're going from outlet to outlet very quick and you don't want to wait the 10 seconds, just hit the power button again and that will reset it and set it up to be ready to read the next outlet. So here's a place where this Klein tester really shines, and this might be worth the additional $10 that you're paying for it. If I were to have a break in the wire where I only had a hot wire connected, let's say that wire got cut or got disconnected in an electrical box somewhere, and the outlet is live because I only have a hot wire connected. No other tester on the market like this can indicate to you that this outlet is live. It needs a ground or a neutral to light up one of those bulbs. So the only way in the past that you would be able to know that this outlet is live is by using something like a non-contact tester that can tell you that there's a hot on that outlet. This outlet tester combines a non-contact functionality in it. So right now, since it's battery operated, it's showing me that I've got a voltage greater than 30 volts on this outlet, and I have an open ground and open neutral. So it's telling me that this outlet is hot, where no other outlet tester out there can do that. So here's a neat trick you can do with these outlet testers. These $300 circuit analyzers like this Ideal look at the wiring in your house to determine if there's wiring issues by simulating a 12 amp load on the line and letting you know the percentage of voltage drop you have with 12 amps. If you have something like a 10% drop, it lets you know that you've got high resistance in that line and you've got some problems. Well, guess what? You've got something in your house that probably draws 12 amps, like this hairdryer. So you can take this 12 amp load and use that along with this outlet tester and determine if you might have some wiring issues in your house. So to look for wiring problems in your house, just take one of these outlet testers and a hairdryer, plug it into different outlets, and look to see how great the voltage drop is. Here at 12 amp load, I dropped from 115 down to around 109, which is the same 4.8% that I was seeing with that $300 Ideal tester. So this little tester can replace that $300 analyzer. One issue you'll have with these testers is the orientation of the display to read the voltage. So in an outlet like this that's pointed towards the wall, there's no way you can get in there to see what the voltage reading is as it's pointed towards the wall. The Kaiweets, by having the display on the front of the unit, pretty much any outlet that you plug it into, you will be able to see the reading. With the Klein, you can have the same situation that you plug into an outlet where you can't see the display. But the advantage of this one with having the batteries in it is that when you remove the unit, the voltage will stay on the screen for you to read it. So no matter what area your outlet is pointed towards, you can always read the voltage when you pull it out. One other thing to note with this tester is, since it is front facing, it is a pretty thick tester. And if you have an outlet that has something else plugged into it, like this brick, it will not plug into the outlet. So these smaller testers can plug in no problem with something else plugged in, but this guy cannot. So while it's nice that this is front facing for reading the digits, it is a problem that you can't plug it into all outlets in your house, depending on what else you have plugged into the outlets. Now, another function that these very expensive circuit testers have is the ability to tell you the amount of time it takes for the GFCI to trip. A GFCI outlet can take up to 6 seconds to trip. Most of them will trip within just a fraction of a second. But with this tester, when I hit the GFCI button, it tells me that GFCI passed and it took 0.2 seconds for that outlet to trip once I hit the button. This Klein tester does a similar thing. I can put this guy into the outlet, and even though I can't see the GFCI button, I can hit the GFCI button, pull this out, and it will tell me that my voltage was 118 volts, and it took 0.11 seconds for that to trip once I hit the GFCI button. Even though the Cobalt and the Kaiweets have a GFCI test button, these do not have the ability to tell you how long it took to trip the GFCI outlet. So in conclusion, all three of these testers have their pros and cons. The Cobalt is by far the most economical. It's really only a few cents more than buying a standard tester like this. So for a few cents, I would definitely say it's worthwhile to get this just to have the voltage display while you're checking outlets. The Kaiweets, it being a little bit more, gives you the advantage of having a few more viewing angles than what the Cobalt does. But it does have the problem of the thicker body. That means it may not be able to fit into all of your outlets. And then this guy, being the most expensive, $20, $20 is not a lot of money, but it is double the price of this guy. But it does give you the neat features of having that non-contact function for being able to detect a hot wire by itself. It has the ability to work with an outlet with any angle, because you can unplug it and then take the voltage reading or look at the voltage reading. And it has the ability to tell you the time it took for the GFCI to trip, which is something you normally only find on a $200 or $300 tester. So if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the subscribe button at the end of this video. And if you have any other products that you would like to see reviewed, make sure you leave a note for me in the comments section.